A disturbing discovery has been made in the Lilly Jack Sullivan case. After 7 months of intensive investigation, sources close to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have confirmed that investigators have uncovered critical evidence about what happened in the bathroom of the Sullivan home on the night of May 1st, 2025. This isn't speculation. This is based on forensic findings, witness statements, and investigative breakthroughs that have remained confidential until now. What occurred in that bathroom may finally answer the question that has haunted this case from the beginning. What happened to 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan during those final hours before she and her brother Jack disappeared forever? The evidence that's emerged is deeply disturbing and points directly to the guilt of the 2 adults who were supposed to be protecting these children. The bathroom incident, as investigators are calling it, represents a crucial piece of the puzzle. It helps establish a timeline of events. It provides physical evidence of what happened to at least one of the children. And it demonstrates that what Daniel Martell and Malehya Brooks Murray have been claiming for 7 months is a complete fabrication designed to cover up terrible crimes committed in that house. What you're about to hear will shock you. It will make you angry. And it will make you understand why prosecutors are now confident they can bring charges and secure convictions in this case. Before we reveal the shocking details about what investigators discovered regarding the bathroom incident and what it means for this case, you absolutely need to subscribe to True Crime Vault right now and hit that notification bell. We've been following this case from the very beginning, bringing you exclusive details and comprehensive analysis that you won't find anywhere else. If you want to stay informed as this case moves toward justice, subscribe immediately. Smash that like button because it helps this content reach more people who care about finding answers for Lilly and Jack Sullivan. And please, share your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think happened in that bathroom? Let's discuss this evidence together as a community demanding accountability. Now let's examine what investigators have discovered about the bathroom incident that may finally break this case wide open. The bathroom in question is a small room on the 2nd floor of the Sullivan home, the bathroom that Lilly and Jack used for bathing and their nightly routines. It's located between their 2 bedrooms, connected by a short hallway. The bathroom has a standard layout: toilet, sink, bathtub with shower. Nothing remarkable or unusual about it from a structural standpoint. It's the kind of bathroom you'd find in thousands of homes across Canada. But what happened in that bathroom on the night of May 1st, 2025, transformed it from an ordinary family space into a crime scene, even though it took investigators months of painstaking forensic work to uncover the evidence that had been so carefully concealed. When police first processed the Sullivan home on May 2nd, and in the days immediately following the children's disappearance, they conducted a visual inspection of the bathroom as part of their initial sweep of the property. Everything appeared normal and clean. There were no obvious signs of struggle or violence. No blood visible to the naked eye. No overturned furniture or broken items. The room looked like any typical family bathroom. Towels hung neatly on racks. Children's bath toys were organized in a basket near the tub. Toothbrushes stood in a holder by the sink. Nothing appeared out of place or suspicious to the initial responding officers who were focused on finding 2 missing children, rather than investigating a crime scene. But appearances, as we now know, can be deceiving when someone has taken deliberate steps to conceal what occurred. The initial visual inspection was not sufficient to reveal what had actually happened in that bathroom. It would take sophisticated forensic techniques and specialized equipment to uncover the truth that had been hidden beneath the surface of apparent normalcy. It wasn't until investigators brought in forensic specialists with luminol and other advanced detection techniques that the truth began to emerge. Luminol is a chemical compound that has been used in forensic investigations for decades. When it's applied to surfaces and then exposed to ultraviolet light in a darkened room, it reacts with iron in hemoglobin, causing it to fluoresce with a distinctive blue glow. This chemical reaction can detect blood even when it's been thoroughly cleaned, even when it's been diluted to the point of being invisible to the naked eye, even when weeks or months have passed since the blood was deposited. When forensic technicians applied luminol throughout the bathroom, carefully spraying it on all surfaces while documenting everything with photography and video, certain areas began to glow with that telltale fluorescence that indicates the presence of blood. The room that had appeared completely clean to visual inspection suddenly revealed its secrets under the revealing light of forensic science. The fluorescence appeared in multiple locations, creating a pattern that told a story to the experienced forensic experts who were analyzing the scene. The blood traces were found in multiple locations within the bathroom, and the distribution of these traces was significant. There were traces on the floor near the bathtub, traces on the side of the tub itself, traces on the bathroom sink, and most significantly, traces on the wall adjacent to the bathtub at a height of approximately 3 feet from the floor. The pattern and distribution of these blood traces told a story to the forensic experts who analyzed them. This wasn't blood from a minor injury like a scraped knee or a bloody nose. The pattern, the distribution, the locations where blood was found, all of it suggested something more serious had occurred in this bathroom. DNA analysis of the blood traces was conducted at specialized laboratories that handle the most sensitive and important forensic work for law enforcement agencies across Canada. The process took considerable time because the samples were small and had been degraded by cleaning agents that had been applied to remove the blood. Cleaning chemicals can break down DNA, making it more difficult to extract and analyze. But the forensic scientists working on this case are among the best in the country, and they were determined to get answers regardless of how long it took or how challenging the work was. Eventually, after weeks of painstaking laboratory work, the analysis was completed. The blood found in the bathroom belonged to Lilly Sullivan. This was confirmed through comparison with DNA obtained from Lilly's toothbrush and other personal items that contained her genetic material. The match was conclusive and definitive. There was no doubt. The presence of Lilly's blood in multiple locations in that bathroom means she bled there. She was injured in that bathroom seriously enough to leave blood traces on multiple surfaces in different areas of the room, and someone then cleaned up that blood using chemical cleaning agents in an attempt to erase evidence of what had occurred. But the blood evidence is just one component of what investigators discovered about the bathroom incident. There's also evidence from the drain system, evidence that proved crucial in understanding the extent of the cleanup operation that had been conducted. Forensic technicians removed the drain trap from the bathroom sink and sent it to the laboratory for detailed analysis. For those who don't know, the drain trap is the curved section of pipe under a sink that's designed to hold water and prevent sewer gases from entering the home. But it also serves another function that criminals often don't consider. It traps material that goes down the drain, material that can't be easily flushed away because it accumulates in the curves of the pipe. Biological material was recovered from the trap, material that had accumulated in those curves where it couldn't be easily flushed away, even with running water. Analysis of this material revealed not just Lilly's DNA, but also cleaning chemical residues in concentrations far higher than you'd expect from normal bathroom cleaning. Someone had poured significant amounts of cleaning chemicals down that drain, presumably to flush away blood and other biological evidence. The concentrations detected were consistent with someone pouring undiluted or minimally diluted cleaning chemicals directly into the drain, far beyond what would be used for routine cleaning purposes. Similar findings came from the bathtub drain. The trap from that drain also contained biological material with Lilly's DNA and high concentrations of cleaning chemical residues. The specific chemicals detected matched the industrial-strength cleaning products that Malehya purchased online in the days before May 2nd. Those products, designed to break down biological material and remove stains from professional settings, had been used extensively in this bathroom. The forensic evidence demonstrates a deliberate, sustained effort to clean up evidence of what happened to Lilly in this room. This wasn't someone wiping up a minor spill. This was a calculated operation to eliminate evidence of a serious incident. Now let's talk about what investigators believe actually happened in that bathroom on the night of May 1st, based on all the evidence they've gathered over 7 months of intensive investigation. The reconstruction of events is based on the physical evidence we've discussed, the timeline established through various sources including electronic devices and witness statements, and statements made by witnesses including Daniel's own admissions in the secretly recorded conversation. While we can't know every detail with absolute certainty, without someone confessing fully and honestly to what occurred, the evidence paints a clear and deeply disturbing picture of what happened in that bathroom. According to the timeline investigators have established through careful analysis of multiple sources, the bathroom incident occurred sometime between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. on the evening of May 1st. This time frame is based on several factors that investigators have pieced together. The children's electronic tablets show their last activity was around 7:30 to 8 p.m., suggesting something happened after that time that prevented them from continuing their normal evening routine of playing games and watching videos. Smart home device data shows a spike in noise from the hallway near the children's rooms around 9:45 p.m., which could correspond to the bathroom incident itself or its immediate aftermath. Investigators believe that Lilly was in the bathroom that evening, possibly for her bedtime bath or bathroom routine. This would have been completely normal and routine. Children that age have established bedtime routines, and bathing is typically part of that routine. Malehya was with her in the bathroom. Daniel was elsewhere in the house, possibly with Jack in another room or downstairs with baby Meadow. What happened next is where the evidence becomes particularly disturbing, though we must be careful to present this information in a way that respects the victim while acknowledging the reality of what investigators believe occurred. Based on the location and pattern of blood traces that were revealed through luminol testing, forensic experts believe Lilly was injured while in or near the bathtub. The blood on the wall at a height of 3 feet from the floor suggests an injury occurred while she was standing or being moved near that wall. The blood pattern analysts who examined the evidence have extensive training and experience in interpreting what blood evidence reveals about the events that created it. They look at factors like the size and shape of blood droplets, the distribution of blood across surfaces, the height at which blood appears on walls, and many other technical details that help reconstruct what happened. The nature of this specific injury cannot be determined with certainty without recovering Lilly's body and conducting an autopsy that would reveal the full extent of trauma. But the amount and distribution of blood suggests significant trauma occurred. This wasn't a minor injury. Forensic analysts who've examined the patterns believe the injuries would have required immediate medical attention. Yet no such medical attention was sought. No call to emergency services, no trip to a hospital or urgent care facility. Instead, someone made a decision to not seek help and instead to clean up the blood and conceal what had occurred. The responsible, legal, and moral action following any serious injury to a child would have been to immediately call for medical help. Even if an injury occurred accidentally, even if it occurred during discipline that went tragically wrong, the right thing to do is get immediate medical attention. But that didn't happen here. Instead, Malehya and Daniel made a different choice. They chose to conceal what had occurred. They chose to clean up the evidence. They chose to eliminate any trace of what happened in that bathroom. And that choice tells investigators and prosecutors everything they need to know about consciousness of guilt. The cleanup operation that followed was extensive and deliberate, demonstrating planning and effort rather than panic. The blood was scrubbed from surfaces using the industrial-strength cleaning products that had been purchased days in advance. These weren't products someone happens to have in their home. These were specialized products that Malehya specifically researched and ordered online. Cleaning chemicals were poured down drains in an attempt to flush away biological evidence. The room was made to look normal and unremarkable, as if nothing unusual had occurred there. This kind of cleanup takes significant time and effort. It's not something you do in a few minutes. It demonstrates premeditation and consciousness of guilt. But before we continue with more details about the bathroom evidence and what it means for this case, I want to take a comprehensive moment for those who might be new to this story or who need a detailed refresher on the background. Understanding the full context is absolutely essential to appreciating why this bathroom evidence is so significant and why it may finally bring justice for these children. So let me walk you through the complete, detailed story of what happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan from the very beginning, because every single detail matters when we're talking about accountability for these tragic deaths. Lilly Sullivan and Jack Sullivan were two young children living in rural Nova Scotia, Canada, in a region known for its natural beauty, but also for its isolation in many areas. Lilly was 6 years old and Jack was 4 years old when they disappeared on May 2, 2025, a date that will forever be marked in the history of this small community. These weren't just statistics or names in a case file or subjects of a criminal investigation. These were real, living, breathing children with personalities, with hopes and dreams, with futures that should have stretched for decades ahead of them. Lilly was described by her teachers at the local elementary school as a bright, outgoing child who absolutely loved to draw pictures and create art. She would spend hours with crayons and markers, creating colorful pictures that she would proudly show to her teachers and classmates. She was always eager to help others in her classroom, volunteering to help teachers with tasks, offering to help classmates who were struggling with assignments. She had a creative spirit and a genuinely kind heart that everyone who knew her recognized and appreciated. Jack was described as an energetic, enthusiastic little boy who loved being outside and playing. He was fascinated by trucks and construction vehicles, and he could identify different types of trucks and heavy equipment with impressive accuracy for a child his age. He loved watching construction sites and would stand at the fence watching the equipment work for as long as adults would let him. He had an infectious laugh that would make everyone around him smile. People who knew him still remember that laugh months after his disappearance, remember how it would echo through the playground, remember how it could lighten any mood. These were real children with real personalities, children who brought joy to people around them, children who deserved to grow up and experience everything life had to offer. The children lived with their mother, Malehya Brooks Murray, who was in her late 20s at the time of the disappearance, and her partner, Daniel Martell, who was in his early 30s. They lived in a house located on a property in Lansdowne Station, which is a small rural community in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. For those unfamiliar with the geography, Pictou County is located in the northern part of mainland Nova Scotia, along the Northumberland Strait. Lansdowne Station is a particularly rural part of the county, with properties spread out and surrounded by forests and wilderness areas. This was what's called a blended family situation, a family structure that's increasingly common in modern society, but that can come with its own unique challenges and stresses. Lilly and Jack were not Daniel Martell's biological children. They were from Malehya's previous relationship with a man named Cody Sullivan. The relationship between Malehya and Cody had ended several years earlier, and by all accounts, it had not ended well or amicably. There were significant, serious issues in that relationship, problems serious enough that eventually, through court proceedings, Cody lost his parental rights entirely. This is not something that happens easily or quickly in the Canadian legal system. Courts are generally reluctant to terminate parental rights completely, preferring to work toward reunification whenever possible. The fact that Cody's rights were terminated suggests there were very serious concerns about his ability or fitness to parent. After the termination of his rights, he was not involved in the children's daily lives in any way. He had no custody, no visitation rights, no legal connection to his biological children. For all practical purposes in the children's daily existence, Daniel had become the only father figure these children knew and interacted with regularly. Malehya and Daniel also had a child together, a baby daughter named Meadow who was approximately 1 year old at the time of the events we're discussing in May 2025. So the household consisted of 5 people total: Malehya, Daniel, baby Meadow, and the 2 older children, Lilly and Jack. They lived on a property that was relatively isolated, even by rural standards, surrounded on most sides by dense forest and wilderness areas. This geographical isolation is important to understand because it becomes relevant to understanding how the events unfolded, how Daniel and Malehya thought they could get away with what they did, and why they constructed the particular narrative they did about the children wandering off into the woods. The property itself was relatively modest in terms of buildings and improvements. There was a main house where the family of 5 lived their daily lives, some outbuildings used primarily for storage of tools and equipment, and notably, a separate smaller building on the property where Daniel's mother, Janie Mackenzie, lived independently. The presence of Janie on the property becomes extremely significant to the investigation because she becomes a witness to certain events and activities, though she didn't realize or understand the significance of what she was observing at the time it was happening. The back of the property had a gate that opened onto trails leading into the forest. This detail becomes critically important later because this gate plays a central role in the story that Daniel and Malehya told about what supposedly happened to the children. Behind that gate was vast, dense wilderness, miles and miles of forest, rough and challenging terrain, places where even experienced outdoorsmen and hikers can get lost or disoriented if they're not careful. Life in this household was not peaceful or happy in the weeks and months leading up to the children's disappearance. Multiple sources who have been interviewed by investigators have described a family under tremendous stress, coming from various directions simultaneously. Financial stress was a constant, overwhelming presence in their lives, the kind of stress that permeates everything and creates tension in even the strongest relationships. Daniel worked sporadically in construction and manual labor jobs, but employment wasn't steady or reliable or sufficient to support a family of 5. He might work intensively for a few weeks on a particular project and then be unemployed for a period of time, creating an unpredictable income stream that made financial planning nearly impossible. Malehya worked part-time in retail at a local store. but her income was minimal, barely enough to cover basic necessities like food and utilities, certainly not enough to make a significant dent in their mounting financial obligations. They were struggling desperately to support a household of 5 people, including 3 children with all the expenses that children bring, on very limited and unpredictable financial resources. They were behind on rent payments to their landlord, falling further behind each month. They had debts mounting from credit cards and other obligations that they had no realistic way of paying down. The stress of poverty and financial insecurity permeated absolutely everything in their lives and created constant, unrelenting tension in the household. Money was a source of frequent arguments between Daniel and Malehya, arguments that neighbors would later report hearing through the walls and windows. But the problems in this household went much deeper than money. Though the financial stress certainly exacerbated all the other issues they were facing, there were serious, well-documented concerns about how the children were being treated in that home, concerns that had been raised by multiple people who interacted with the children. Teachers at the elementary school that Lilly and Jack attended had been noticing concerning signs for months before the disappearance, signs that made them increasingly worried about the children's welfare. They saw bruises on the children that didn't have good or plausible explanations, bruises that seemed inconsistent with normal childhood injuries from playing or accidents. They observed behavioral changes in both children that suggested to experienced educators that the children were experiencing ongoing trauma or chronic stress at home. Lilly, who had been an outgoing, engaged student who loved participating in class activities and who eagerly raised her hand to answer questions, became increasingly withdrawn and quiet over a period of months. She stopped raising her hand to participate. She stopped playing with other children as much during recess and lunch periods. She became more isolated and less communicative. Jack displayed behavior problems that teachers found concerning and unusual. He would sometimes become extremely anxious or fearful without apparent cause, reacting to situations in ways that seemed disproportionate to what was actually happening. He showed signs of being hypervigilant, constantly on alert, behaviors that teachers recognized as potentially indicating trauma or abuse at home. One particular teacher became concerned enough that she took the significant step of filing a formal report with Child Protective Services approximately 3 weeks before the children disappeared. This wasn't a decision she made lightly. Teachers understand the serious implications of filing such reports. She documented specific observations in detail, bruises she'd seen on Jack's arms on multiple occasions, marks that looked like they'd been made by someone grabbing him forcefully. She documented behavioral changes in both children that worried her from a professional standpoint. She expressed clear concerns in her written report that the children might not be safe in their home environment, and she recommended that the situation be investigated by trained social workers. But the child welfare system, overwhelmed and chronically understaffed as it is in virtually every jurisdiction, didn't act quickly enough on this report. There was no investigation launched before May 2nd. No social worker visited the home to assess the situation. No one intervened to protect these children when they needed protection most desperately. This is a systemic failure that haunts everyone involved in retrospect. Neighbors living in the houses near the Sullivan property had also heard concerning things in the weeks and months before the disappearance, things that in retrospect they deeply wish they had reported to authorities at the time. Multiple neighbors reported to police investigators after the disappearance, when law enforcement was canvassing the entire area, that they'd heard what sounded like arguments or serious conflict coming from the Sullivan property on multiple occasions over several months. Some specifically remembered hearing what sounded like children crying or screaming in distress, followed by adult voices yelling harshly and angrily. One neighbor described hearing a child's voice screaming the word "stop" repeatedly and urgently, followed by sounds that might have been impacts, objects hitting surfaces or walls, sounds that made this neighbor extremely uncomfortable. But like so many people in similar situations across the country, these neighbors didn't want to interfere in what they assumed was a private family matter. They didn't want to make assumptions about what was happening based on sounds. They convinced themselves it probably wasn't as bad as it sounded, that all families have conflicts and arguments, that it wasn't their place to get involved or call authorities. And now they live with tremendous guilt, knowing they had opportunities to potentially save these children's lives, and they didn't act on those opportunities. Daniel Martell's personal background reveals troubling patterns that suggest this wasn't his first experience with concerning behavior around children who weren't biologically his. Before his relationship with Malehya, which began approximately 3 years before the children disappeared, he'd been involved in a serious relationship with another woman who had a young daughter from a previous relationship. During that relationship, which lasted about 2 years, concerns were raised by multiple people about Daniel's interactions with the child. He was described by people who observed him as being too rough, too harsh in his discipline methods, lacking the patience and gentleness that young children require and deserve. There was a specific documented incident where he grabbed the child forcefully enough to leave visible marks on her arm, marks that were noticed by a daycare worker. The daycare worker, following mandatory reporting protocols, reported the incident to child welfare authorities. The case was investigated by social workers who interviewed the mother, Daniel, and observed the child. But ultimately, no criminal charges were ever filed. The investigation concluded, and the case was closed without further action. The relationship between Daniel and that woman ended shortly after this incident, and Daniel moved on to his next relationship. But the pattern was established in official records. This was someone who had a documented history of difficulty controlling his temper around children who weren't biologically his, who used excessive force in the name of discipline, who crossed boundaries that should never be crossed with children. Malehya Brooks Murray also had her own concerning history as a parent, a history that raised questions about her ability to adequately care for children. Approximately 2 years before Lilly and Jack disappeared, she had temporarily lost custody of both children. This is a significant event that speaks to serious concerns about her parenting. The children were removed from her care by child welfare authorities and placed with Malehya's mother for a period of several months, while Malehya was required to address personal issues that made authorities question her ability to care for the children properly. The specific reasons for this loss of custody are sealed in court records, as is typical in child welfare cases, which are generally confidential to protect the privacy of families and children. But family members have indicated in interviews with investigators that concerns were raised about multiple aspects of Malehya's parenting: her ability to adequately care for the children's basic needs, her mental and emotional state and stability, questions about whether she was providing adequate supervision to keep them safe. She eventually regained custody after several months, presumably after completing whatever requirements the court had imposed on her, whether that was counseling, parenting classes, addressing mental health issues, or other interventions. But family members privately expressed doubts and concerns about whether she was truly ready to handle the significant responsibilities and constant demands of parenting 2 young, energetic children who required consistent attention and care. Text messages recovered from both Daniel and Malehya's cell phones through forensic analysis conducted by investigators reveal a relationship that was under significant and increasing strain in the months leading up to the children's disappearance. The messages paint a picture of a couple in crisis. They argued frequently and intensely about money and their desperate financial situation, about the children and the challenges of parenting, about their future together and whether they even had a future, about feeling trapped in their circumstances with no apparent way out. Daniel expressed significant resentment in messages to his friends about having to support and care for children who weren't biologically his, children he felt no parental connection to. In multiple messages spread over several months, he complained bitterly about Lilly and Jack, referred to them explicitly as burdens he never asked for and never wanted, talked about how much easier and better life would be without them in the picture, complicating everything. Malehya expressed in her messages to friends feeling completely overwhelmed by the demands of caring for 3 children of different ages, particularly 2 older children who required more attention, more resources, more patience than an infant. There were discussions between Daniel and Malehya in their text messages about their problems, about feeling like there was no way out of their situation, about wishing things were different, about wanting to start over with a clean slate. Reading these messages in retrospect, knowing what happened, they take on an extremely sinister tone that investigators have noted extensively. The last confirmed independent sighting of Lilly and Jack alive by someone other than Daniel and Malehya was on May 1, 2025, the day before they were reported missing to authorities. Security cameras at a Dollarama store, which is a discount retail chain extremely common throughout Canada, captured the entire family of 5 shopping together at precisely 2:25 p.m. that afternoon. The footage, which investigators have reviewed extensively, shows all 5 family members moving through the store, Malehya pushing a shopping cart with a stroller attachment containing baby Meadow, Daniel walking alongside her, and Lilly and Jack walking through the store aisles. The children appear completely normal in the footage, walking around, looking at items on shelves, exhibiting typical childhood behavior and curiosity. There's nothing obviously wrong or concerning in their demeanor as captured on the security camera footage. They look like any other children on any other shopping trip with their family. But this security footage represents the absolute last time that anyone outside the immediate family can verify with certainty and independent documentation that Lilly and Jack were alive and well and unharmed. After that shopping trip concluded, the family of 5 returned home to their property in Lansdowne Station, arriving back at the house sometime around 3 or 4 p.m. based on the distance and drive time. From that point forward, from approximately 3 or 4 p.m. on May 1st until the 911 emergency call at 10:01 a.m. on May 2nd, only Daniel Martell and Malehya Brooks Murray claimed to have seen the children alive. There are absolutely no other witnesses who can independently verify or corroborate that the children were alive and well during those critical hours. This creates a significant gap of approximately 18 to 19 hours, where we have to rely entirely and exclusively on the word of 2 people who are now the primary suspects in the children's disappearance and presumed deaths. 2 people who have every reason to lie about what actually occurred during that time period. According to the account that Daniel and Malehya have provided and maintained consistently since the very beginning, the evening of May the 1st was completely normal, routine, and unremarkable in every way. They claim the children had dinner with the family, played for a while as children typically do in the evening hours, and went to bed at their usual bedtime, which they say was around 9 or 9:30 p.m. Daniel and Malehya claim they went to bed themselves shortly after putting the children down for the night, with baby Meadow sleeping in a crib in their bedroom as was their routine. The next morning, May 2nd, they claimed the children woke up at their normal time and went outside to play in the backyard, which they characterize as part of the regular morning routine that the children followed. Daniel and Malehya say they remained inside the house with the baby, doing normal morning activities. They claim they could hear the children playing outside through open windows, sounds that reassured them everything was fine and normal. But then, according to their account, they realized it had gone quiet outside. When they went out to check on the children to see why it was quiet, Lilly and Jack were nowhere to be found, completely vanished. The back gate that led to the wilderness trails was standing open. They claim they searched the immediate area around the house, couldn't find the children anywhere, and made the decision to call 911 at 10:01 a.m. to report them missing. That's the story they've told consistently to police, to media, to anyone who's asked. But investigators don't believe that story is true, and the accumulating evidence strongly suggests it's a complete fabrication created to cover up what really happened. The evidence suggests very strongly that the children never made it to the morning of May 2nd alive. The evidence suggests that something terrible happened to them on the evening of May 1st, during those hours when only Daniel and Malehya were present and no one else could witness what occurred, and that everything that followed, the 911 call, the searches, the media appearances, all of it was an elaborate, carefully planned cover-up designed to avoid accountability and criminal prosecution for what occurred in that house. Now, with all of that detailed background established and understood, let's return to the bathroom evidence and understand more fully why it's so absolutely devastating to Daniel and Malehya's claims of innocence, and why it may finally bring the justice these children deserve. The bathroom evidence directly and powerfully contradicts their entire story about the children being alive and well through the evening and into the next morning. If Lilly was injured seriously and significantly enough to bleed in multiple locations throughout that bathroom, and if that injury and bleeding occurred on the evening of May 1st, as the forensic evidence and timeline strongly suggests, then she absolutely could not have been alive and playing outside the next morning, as Daniel and Malehya claim in their fabricated account. Investigators have discovered additional evidence beyond just the blood traces and drain analysis that we've already discussed. There's evidence from the ventilation system that proved to be another important source of preserved evidence that the extensive cleanup operation couldn't reach or eliminate. The bathroom has an exhaust fan mounted in the ceiling, which is standard in virtually all modern bathrooms to remove moisture and odors during bathing and showering. This fan vents through metal ductwork that runs through the walls and ceiling spaces and eventually exits to the outside of the house. Forensic technicians made the decision to remove sections of that ductwork and examine them carefully under controlled laboratory conditions. What they found was significant. microscopic particles that had been pulled into the vent system by the fan's airflow during whatever occurred in the bathroom. These particles were completely beyond the reach of any cleanup efforts because they were inside the ductwork, in areas that simply can't be accessed or cleaned without removing sections of the ventilation system entirely. But they were there, preserved in the ductwork, and they provided additional scientific confirmation that significant events had occurred in that bathroom involving blood. Additional fiber evidence also came from careful examination of the bathroom and provided further insight into the cleanup operation that was conducted. Fibers from cleaning cloths, the specific type typically used to wipe up spills and clean surfaces, were found trapped in small crevices and gaps around the sink and bathtub. These are tiny spaces where fibers can become lodged during vigorous cleaning and remain even after the cloths themselves have been removed and presumably disposed of far from the property. Laboratory analysis of these recovered fibers showed they contained traces of Lilly's DNA and significant residues of cleaning chemicals. The evidence clearly shows that someone used cloths saturated with the industrial-strength cleaning chemicals to wipe up blood, using the chemicals to help break down and remove the biological material, and then disposed of those cloths somewhere away from the property where they couldn't be recovered by investigators searching the scene. But microscopic fibers remained behind, trapped in tiny crevices, providing additional evidence of the cleanup operation and its clear purpose to conceal evidence. Now let's discuss how witness testimony corroborates and supports the physical evidence in important and meaningful ways. Remember that Janie McKenzie, Daniel's mother, lived in a completely separate building on the same property, giving her a unique vantage point to observe activities at the main house. In her initial interviews with investigators conducted immediately after the children were reported missing, she told them she went to bed early on the night of May 1st and heard nothing unusual or concerning overnight. She stated she slept soundly and was completely unaware of anything out of the ordinary happening in the main house during the night. But under repeated, careful questioning over subsequent months, as investigators pressed her again and again to think carefully and remember every possible detail, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it might seem, her memory evolved and additional details emerged that she hadn't mentioned initially. She eventually recalled, after extensive prompting and careful patient questioning by experienced investigators, that she had heard water running from the main house late that evening, significantly later than would be normal or expected for children's bedtime bath routines. She specifically remembered hearing water running for an extended, unusually long period, far longer than a typical bath or shower would require. At the time this was happening, she didn't think anything suspicious of it because people use water for many innocent reasons, and it didn't strike her as particularly unusual or worth investigating. But in retrospect, with the knowledge of what investigators have discovered through forensic analysis, that extended water running takes on extremely significant new meaning. The extended water running could very well have been the cleanup operation in progress, with water being used repeatedly and extensively to rinse blood from multiple surfaces and flush biological evidence down drains in an attempt to eliminate all traces of what had occurred. What do you think about this bathroom evidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay updated as this case moves toward charges and trial, subscribe to True Crime Vault right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, smash that like button, and share this video with anyone following this case. If you have any information about this case or about where the children's remains might be located, contact the RCMP immediately. The tip line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can remain anonymous if you choose. There's still a substantial reward available for information that has investigative value. Thank you for watching this comprehensive analysis of the bathroom evidence in the Sullivan case. This discovery changes absolutely everything about this investigation. It proves conclusively that the children were harmed inside their own home rather than disappearing from outside as claimed. It demonstrates consciousness of guilt through the extensive, calculated cleanup operation. It provides prosecutors with powerful, compelling evidence for trial that will be extremely difficult for any defense attorney to overcome or explain away. Criminal charges are coming very soon. Arrests are imminent. Justice is finally coming, and 2 innocent children who suffered terribly and died in that house will finally receive the accountability and justice they deserve.